out, son! Nothing else in the world smells like that!
Apocalypse Now showed the audience just how bad the horrors of war can get. And today, we are going to explore 20 weird facts about this crazy movie that will make you think twice about going to war. Stick around to the end for the bonus fact as well. Number 20. Going with the flow.
Don't look at the camera, just go by like you're fighting! Like you're fighting! Don't look at the camera! It's for television! Just go through! Just go by! Keep on going! Don't look! Go on! Keep going! Don't look at the camera!
Believe it or not, Francis Ford Coppola, the director of Apocalypse, now didn't really have any sort of solid ending for the movie in his mind.
So here you are, on one hand, it's trying to aspire to really do something. On the other hand, you're not allowed to be pretentious. And finally you say, F it.
John Milius, the screenwriter for the movie, wanted the movie to initially end with a climactic battle between the North Vietnamese forces against Kurtz and his allies. But Coppola went against Milius's vision and instead took the advice of his friends, Dennis Jacob and Hopper, and directed the ending based off books seen throughout the movie, like The Golden Bough and From Ritual to Romance. Coppola eventually came up with the ending where Willard kills Kurtz and takes over as the infallible new leader of the group. Number 19. The Russian.
Guy in tatters and rags, taking photographs, trying to explain what this was all about and how it's blown his mind away.
Dennis Hopper was initially cast as the assassin Colby, who was a part of the special task force sent in to assassinate Kurt. But Coppola didn't like Hopper's portrayal of the character. Coppola instead cast Hopper as a drugged-out war correspondent photographer, which was based off the character only known as the Russian from Joseph.
Why did you say that to him in the scene?
Cool.
Something clever like that. When he
You know
says, who
why?
are you?
You
Why
know
don't you say,
why?
who are you?
Because I haven't learned my lines yet.
I know,
that's
you've had him
why.
for 5 days.
of Conrad's book, Heart of Darkness, which the movie is loosely based on. Number 18. $3 million. One of the highest paid actors on the set was Marlon Brando, and it wasn't even close.
Accept its optimistic conclusions. He may never permit the report to be released in full. Even so, he is sufficiently impressed with the findings.
Brando was apparently paid a staggering $3 million for just 4 weeks of work, and he was even allowed to wrap up his work by 5:30 p.m. every day. Brando also ended up stalling the movie by 4 days just to collect his paycheck. Coppola eventually talked to Brando about the role and expressed his desire for Brando to go bald for the role, just like it's mentioned in the book. Coppola said he would sleep on it and showed up bald on set the next day. When asked what convinced him, Brando said that he read the book and wanted to play the role as it was written. Number 17. Brando's weight. Marlon Brando was fresh off his Oscar win for his iconic portrayal of Vito Corleone in The Godfather, also directed by Coppola. But when Brando ended up reaching the set for Apocalypse Now, Coppola noticed that he weighed over 300 pounds and was incredibly out of shape for a person who was going to portray a Green Beret soldier.
You're an errand boy, sent by grocery clerks to collect a bill.
Coppola ended up working around this by always showing Brando in shadows and darkness, which heightened the mystery around the character. Number 16. The Doors. If you're a fan of Jim Morrison or the band The Doors, you would have noticed how the entire film features their iconic songs. Apparently, an unreleased 5.5-hour early assembly cut of the movie featured their discography throughout, as there was no original score for the movie at that point. What's even more surprising is that Jim Morrison, the frontman for The Doors, was classmates with Coppola. Number 15. Obsession. Milius was attracted to the book Heart of Darkness well before the idea for Apocalypse Now even came to be. He was drawn to the book and had set his mind on making a film adaptation of the book.
Although I sometimes worry that he doesn't think.
As his college professor had stated that no person had ever been able to successfully write a proper screenplay based off the book. Milius took it upon himself to write a screenplay that would stay faithful to the book, which in turn gave us Apocalypse Now. Number 14. Hippie influence. The film came at the peak of hippie culture and as such had a very strong hippie influence. This influence manifested itself in the title of the movie, which was a contrarian spin on the slogan "Nirvana Now," which was a popular term pointing towards the objective of achieving the highest state of consciousness through the use of substances. That's pretty far out, man. Number 13. Never Spoken. If you watch the movie, you may have noticed that the title for the movie doesn't appear on screen, as was the trend for movies at the time. This was apparently done on purpose by Coppola and was intended to be a creative move. He didn't want the movie to feel like a film and wanted it to be very raw and visceral in nature. But for the sake of sticking to union regulations, the film title appears in the film painted on Kurtz's temple wall, where it says, "Our motto, Apocalypse Now." Number 12. No credits. And if you thought not showing the title was a bold creative choice, imagine how gutsy you have to be to not even have an opening or closing credits sequence. You heard that right. In Coppola's original 70mm limited release of the film, there were no opening or closing credits, underscoring the gritty and dark nature of the film.
You know, we have the main boat approaching. Now we have the birds. We don't have the birds great, but we'll never get it great. The birds, and then I propose that we do 4 close-ups. Sam, Chief, Martin, everyone, looking at the birds so I can use the sound of the birds with maybe 3 birds going through and I can create the illusion of there being birds.
Coppola instead handed out printed pamphlets with credits within theaters to ensure credit was given. Coppola was eventually forced to make an end credit sequence for the wider 35mm format release. And wound up changing the sequence once more because he felt the first ending sequence messed with the narrative. Are you enjoying the video so far? Well, if you stuck around this long, make sure to stay till the end to hear the amazing bonus fact. Number 11. Opening sequence.
Need to be a big deal in my career, you know? It's not important anyway. There are more beautiful and more important things in life.
Coppola never directed any sort of footage with the intention of making it the opening shot. Instead, he asked editor Richard Marx if there was any footage left in the garbage, to which Marx responded that it was just some static footage from the infamous napalm scene.
We'll have this place cleaned up and ready to Jimmy son, don't you worry.
Coppola liked the eerie feeling this shot gave and decided to make it the opening shot and overlay it with the song "The End" from The Doors. Number 10. Keitel for Willard. Harvey Keitel was Coppola's original pick for the role of Willard, and although he had picked Keitel after extensive auditioning, he ended up firing the actor only 6 weeks into filming because he felt that Keitel wasn't able to bring the depth and introspection that was necessary for the character on screen. Coppola eventually approached Martin Sheen to play the role of Willard after he had passed on the role because of his commitment to shooting the Cassandra Crossing. Number 9. Real stress.
If you're going, you've gone mad.
Coppola was stressed every second he was on set and had good reason to be. He had apparently invested $30 million of his own money into the film by taking out a loan from the bank. If the film had tanked, Coppola would have ended up losing his house and winery, which were placed as collaterals. Coppola was so stressed out by this that he had a nervous breakdown, a seizure, and even threatened to commit suicide thrice. Number 8. Over budget and schedule. And if you thought Coppola sinking his entire net worth into the film would be enough to shoot the film, you'd be wrong. The movie faced numerous production delays, partly due to the weather in the Philippines. The shooting, which was supposed to initially last 14 weeks, ended up taking a grand total of 3 years, including post-production. The film, which began shooting in 1976, finally released in 1979. Thankfully, the film became not just a commercial success, but also a critical one, ensuring that Coppola kept his house and production company. Number 7. Ford's early appearance.
When you find the colonel, infiltrate his team by whatever means available, and terminate the colonel.
Harrison Ford makes an appearance in the movie as one of the officers named Colonel Lucas, a subtle nod to George Lucas, who ends up handing Willard his orders to assassinate Kurtz. Ford, who was relatively unknown at that point, had previously starred in Lucas's American Graffiti and Coppola's The Conversation.
Hey, dawg, why don't you come on a ride with me in about 10 years? Now leave her out of this. This is just between you and me.
Although Ford was acting regularly in films, he would still be a relatively unknown face in 1976, but he would eventually gain stardom overnight after playing the titular character of Han Solo in Star Wars. Number 6. Real-time war footage. Milius, inspired by the film Medium Cool, originally wanted to shoot the film in Vietnam while the war was still ongoing to get real footage of the war. But Coppola rejected the idea and decided to shoot in the Philippines instead, as President Ferdinand Marcos gave Coppola access to however many helicopters and gunships they needed. Any and all support from the US was void at this point, as the message of the film was strongly anti-war. Number 5. Coppola's cameo. Coppola has a very short cameo in the film where he appears as a newsreel director asking Willard to not look at the camera as the squadron has their rendezvous with Colonel Kilgore. Coppola, along with designer Dean Tavoularis and cinematographer Vittorio Storaro, makes a cameo in this scene. Newsreels were frequently shot during the Vietnam War, and Coppola shows the reality behind the propaganda reels made by US media to fuel the war at the time. Number 4. Voiceover. Coppola had decided to include an entire voiceover track for Willard to give more exposition to his character. Coppola ended up hiring real-life war correspondent Michael Herr to write and voice over the track. Coppola decided to go with Michael Herr, as he had been a fan of his writing since reading his book Dispatches. Dispatches included a collection of Herr's experiences in the war and gave valuable insight into the internal struggles of war from both the civilian and military perspectives, making him the perfect person to give life to the character. Number 3. Sound systems. Dolby had apparently developed its cutting-edge 70mm stereo sound system with split surround channels specifically for this film.
Clear picture, which to my eye on a 20-foot screen looks like the finished film.
Coppola and his editor, Walter Murch, had the idea to create an enveloping sound design for the helicopter scene and decided to use stereo sound surround channels to achieve this effect. But Apocalypse Now would not be the first film to release in this sound format because of its delayed production, and instead, the 1978 Superman film ended up being the first to release their film with this cutting-edge sound format. Number 2. Dow Chemicals. The Playboy show scene features several drums featuring the logo of Dow Chemicals. Dow Chemicals is one of the companies that manufactured Agent Orange, one of the worst chemical substances used in the war. Although labeled as a herbicide, the effect it had on the general populace of Vietnam was devastating. Agent Orange was directly responsible for the extreme congenital deformities and rise in cancer cases throughout Vietnam and amongst veterans of the war on both sides. Number 1. The original soundtrack. Before Walter Murch was called onto the scene to compose the soundtrack for the show, Coppola had invited David Shire to compose an all-synthesizer score for the movie, which would end up becoming completely unused due to a fallout between the two. The original soundtrack was only released years later after the movie was released, showing us what could have been. Bonus fact: Lucas for Apocalypse Now. Believe it or not, George Lucas and Coppola were classmates and friends at USC, where they both studied film. Coppola found himself being offered a development deal by Warner Brothers, which he decided to spend on Milius's script for Apocalypse Now. But what's surprising is that George Lucas was initially set to shoot the film for Coppola but ended up dropping out to direct Star Wars after the project got significantly delayed. If you like this video, we think you will enjoy this one. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Make sure to leave a comment as well telling us which fact was your favorite.